And today we have Corey with us, the award-winning chapter director of Startup Grind Grand Rapids in Michigan, United States. And he's also a co-founder and marketing officer of Telebehavioral Health .us. He's also a great community builder, startup advisor, and he's also experienced in food startups. He's one of the favorite chapter directors of Startup Grind, my favorite. So I have him on the
Thanks.
show. He is enthusiastic, he is full of energy, and today we're gonna find out what his secrets are, or if there is any secrets. So
Right.
Corey, go ahead, tell our audience who you are.
Yeah, just I think Hess did a great intro. I'm a second generation restaurant man. My father had restaurants. My fam and when anyone in a family has restaurants, basically everyone's working at the restaurant. So I was washing dishes when I was like 6 years old, every position, and that's how I got the bug for entrepreneurism. And food businesses can be some of the roughest, toughest businesses to operate, and they involve a lot of fires to be putting out, literally and figuratively, um, between managing teams, managing priorities, marketing, supply chain. It's a commodity business. Even though the prices of the things that you're selling are fluctuating on a daily basis, you can't increase the prices to your customers. Bad things can go viral. You're always like managing um, your what do we call that? Um, like the you're managing your reputation. There we go in that business. So all of that really prepared me for all of the startup business and really supporting entrepreneurs. And that's really what I love to do. That's what fills me up, is working with my flock of entrepreneurs and other ecosystem builders around the world, and learn from people like yourself and Katie and everyone else in the SG team. It's been an incredible last year and a year and a half that I've been part of the family. So I'm excited to be here and share and learn.
Thank you, Corey. We were honored to have you on our show as well. And you are doing a great job at Startup Grind, Grand Rapids, and everyone's noticing it, and everyone knows you. So that's a good a validation right there. So um, quickly, what we're gonna do today, because Corey needs to leave sooner. I had to unfortunately cut from the questions that I had from his background, and then get quickly to the topic that we're going to talk about. So I'm just going to make it short and quick. I always ask this question from all my guests: what was the first entrepreneurial moment of your life? It doesn't matter how young you were and how small the, let's say, action was. What was it?
Sure. Yeah, that's a good question. I was talking to a founder yesterday who was selling sneakers when he was, I think, like 6 or something like that, and like that's way before. That's now, of course, $1 billion industry. For me, I started a magazine when I was in fifth grade, and I got all my friends together to be writers. I promoted people to editor, and it was very interesting. So I was a publisher, and then I was also I went out and I got advertising for this magazine. I distributed it in the school to classmates and to teachers, um, and that was a lot of fun. And that was my first entrepreneurial venture.
I had something similar as well. We started a magazine in our high school too, with a friend of mine, and from scratch, everything like from content printing and all that back then.
Yeah, I had no idea what I was doing.
Us neither. That's awesome. So I've done a little bit of background check on your profile, your LinkedIn, and your online presence. And from teenage life, I had to write it down because it was a lot. You've been into, from teenage life till now, you've been into marketing, food business. You were owner of a nightclub. You were teaching, entertaining, advising, recruiting, public speaking, and now start grind and community building. So, um, was this part of a bigger plan to be involved in so many industries, or what was the reason, or was it just coincidental?
I've always had a problem with having anything like nailed down as far as what I wanted to do. I also have somewhat of a attention problem. As soon as I figure something out, it bores me to death, and then I have to move on to something else. And that's why I think hospitality industry, like, always keeps me motivated and captivated because there's so many fires and always things happening. Like just the other night, I'm staying with a friend here in San Diego, and she worked very hard to get a night off of the bar so we could hang out. And of course, like a urinal falls off the wall and the bar floods. So what do we got to do? We got to go handle it. There's always something happening, but that's what keeps it interesting. One thing that has always been that things catch my eye, and I'm always doing my best to introduce myself to people that are outside of my immediate network and also my immediate industries or of my expertise. And what that has shown me is, even this is maybe when I was 16 years old, I went to a high school football dance. So in America, like after the football game where the local cities get together and have our rivalry with our football teams, afterwards the high school oftentimes has a party or a dance. And I went to one of these, the very first ones, and I looked at the DJ and I was like, I want to do that. And so I just walked up to the guy and I was like, I want to do that. And he said, cool, all right, get up here. And um later, when I wanted to get into radio, I just walked, I developed relationships and I was like, I want to do this. And the guys were like, okay, let's do this. I want to open up a restaurant. I want to do that. And I just keep on doing that. So, um, yeah, there's no plan, Hess. And I think I
I,
saw,
I feel you.
I,
I've got a kind
I,
of similar situation here. Any shiny object catches my eyes, and
yeah,
I don't know what's happening in there. It has the confidence to say, well, we can do it. There's no problem. It's just that gonna take a few days to learn.
right.
And
And that's also the way it guides my hiring is I only hire for curiosity. I don't care about expertise. I don't care about school or education. I barely look at resumes. I just like I meet with somebody and I start asking them like what drives their curiosity or what they are curious about. And if they if they push back on that, which a lot of people do, because many people have a mindset of like, oh well, I need to fit in this box so that I'm attractive for this position. And I just keep on trying to learn more about the individual because I really want this, whatever interaction that we usually have, I want it to be a stepping stone to something else greater. And if they help identify that for me, then I can help them get there, right? So
that's so true. And yeah, way back in the time when I was running my two startups ago, that's I usually right didn't care. We didn't even ask for resumes. We just like come in here, talk to us, and we're gonna go with our gut feeling, and usually it's correct. Yeah. So you've been in all these industries, you've been active and all that. What are you focusing on right now? Where are you heading?
Well, so I have a couple projects that I'm really excited about. The current role at Telebehavioral Health, mental health is the number one disease burden across the globe, especially when we're talking now that the global conversation around equity, whether it's gender, racial, cultural, etc., economic, the 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 living under like stress and pressures, microaggressions, like it's a finally, there are communities that are talking about all of those things being a public health crisis, um, not so much as a social problem, but a health crisis, because this sustained trauma of microaggressions or poverty or whatever is shortening lives, and and we all feel it. And I think everyone on this in this group, to one extent or another, has intersections of that. And so I'm really excited for the work that I'm doing with telebehavioral health. This last year has been, of course, there's no measure to the tragedy. However, it has also offered us an incredible opportunity for digitization, and many countries are really leaning into like remote care with mental health, even care in what's typically done in person. I was part of a call with Kaiser Health, which is a California health network, and the CTO was putting together a call with technologists and innovators in healthcare. This is at the beginning of the pandemic, and they did a quick poll. They said, okay, who in this group has used any telehealth and anything that they do? We had like foot people on there, we had head people, ear people, like all kinds of doctors, and like 6% of the people had previously tried any kind of telehealth. So this was like maybe even 2 weeks into the pandemic shutdown. So then they said, okay, well, who's tried some of these technologies now in the last 2 weeks? Like 85%. So incredible adoption within 2 weeks, like rushing to telehealth. And then the third question, and this is only 2 weeks in, how many of you will continue to use telehealth after this nightmare is over? And 70% of people said that they're going to continue to use it. And this is, I mean, it takes so long for some technologies to be adopted. The proof of telehealth has been around since the 1960s and 70s. So anyway, that's what I'm working on. I'm really excited for telehealth and what it means for global health. And then I'm really leaning into building community within Startup Grind. This last year has been reaching out to ecosystems and trying to connect those dots with one another. And now I'm shifting some focus and bringing a team on to start building my local ecosystem again, because now we can do hybrid events and whatnot. So I'm excited about that.
That's awesome. And can you just quickly explain what is systematic on racism? You have it on your profile. I want to know what it is. I want to know more about it.
Yeah. On my LinkedIn, I say, ask me about systemic on racism. Just kind of like if you're a salesperson, you're like, ask me about double roll toilet paper. Like, how do you get two rolls into one roll? That's just amazing on the technology. But systemic on racism um, is exactly what it sounds like. We're looking and we're working on how to um, build systems that promote and just by their very existence and operation, um, uh, help to um, create like anti-racist behaviors within organizations, within minds, within people, and with communities. I'm still doing a lot of learning and unlearning in this space, and there's some language and talk about like how, like, I personally, I am racist. Like, we can all be racist, but then my actions, I have to be very careful. So like if I buy a cup of coffee, like that could promote equity or it could promote inequity, right? Things I say, the people I interact with, companies I do business with. So yeah, that's some work we're doing. We're doing it regionally here locally in West Michigan, and then we're going to be franchising the impact and the reach that we make in 2021. We're an events and media company where we are holding quarterly events and have a press publication. So yeah, really excited about that and happy to talk to anybody about what we're building there.
Yeah. So message Corey on LinkedIn if you're curious about what he's doing in that sector. Right. So this is a part that I had to cut a lot of questions. So I'm just going to jump right into two, let's say, category of topics that I want to talk about. And I titled it on my notes, "Inner A Game and Outer A Game." Right.
Ooh, good. Yeah.
We're gonna start with inner A game, because obviously, as everybody know and you know, all your game starts from inner self and inside of you. And a lot of people ignore that and they try to change their external world, hoping that everything is there to be changed right there. But a lot of things comes from inner. So one thing that I really admire is your drive. You're always active. You're always doing something. You seem unstoppable, right? And I want you to share with our audience today, um, how you manage that. How do you stay on top of your game and have so much
Um, uh, can we mute somebody there? I think I think maybe is it John that's not muted yet? Anyway, because I heard most of your question there. So, um, I think the first part about the inner A game is giving yourself permission to fail and giving yourself permission to grow and giving yourself time to learn how to do something correct and to iterate. A lot of us try so hard to be perfect before we release something, right? That's what a lot of entrepreneurs talk about. And um, uh, and even so, like today is an example. I'm doing a lot of things. I'm kind of stretching myself, but I love it. I always do that. And today I failed. I had an event that I had planned. I was really excited about it, and it didn't happen because I quite simply, as like a teenager, slept through an alarm, and it's incredibly embarrassing. And so I let people down. I'm doing all of this work to build community so I can build trust, and my actions. Like now I have to do a lot of extra work to build trust, but it's important that I I take stock of the reality of the situation, but I of course can't just live the entire day and shut down. So resilience, I think, comes from giving yourself permission to do all those things, and then really notice when things are happening, and act and react.
I see. And the second part of the question that I asked you was about drive. How do you keep up with all the stuff that you're doing professionally? Because first of all, it's really hard to track, and second of all, it needs a good drive to be on top of everything.
Yeah, luckily we've got this really great company called, Atlassian. They've got a bunch of really great technology. I love Trello. Whether you use Trello or whether you use Asana, or I don't care what you use, if you use Google Spreadsheets or a notebook, um, a whiteboard, that those are incredible tools to help keep me in check. I have, 8 different organizations I help with at any given time. So I have 8 different calendars that are all coordinated. So technology is number one. And then everything that I do, I do it through teams. So it's not just me; it's really talented teams of interns and staff, and I do everything I can to empower them to run with it and take ownership. And of course, this is matching the curiosity that I find in people with tasks and goals that we identify together that lights them up. So they're on fire to achieve things, and everything that's on my LinkedIn is because of other people. So um, empowering teams, making sure that it's not like perfect before it's released, and a lot of and of course I always ask people to hold me accountable. So a lot of candor comes my way from my teams, like, hey Corey, like let's do it this way, or you can't do that, or you're screwing up, or act faster. So they help me identify where the fires are.
Excellent. Mute. There you go. So, I've been talking to a lot of people with, let's say, entrepreneurs, directors, managers, and one topic that comes up a lot is the fact that everyone's running out of time is a new trend. Uh, like uh, it happened 3 times that I brought the question of what are the challenges you have currently, and everybody with no exception said time, running out of time. So is that happening to you? And if it is, how are you managing it? Do you have any anything to tell people about it?
Well, sure. I think the best aspect, or the best thing about being able to create social capital and build one's network is when people come to me and ask me to help out with things. I I really hate saying no, but no is the best word, is so that you don't overextend yourself. But then you can lean in on that social capital and say, hey, I can't help you. However, this person, this person, this person, these people you should talk to, and hopefully you'll find a solution. If you don't, loop back, and then I'll feed you more connections. Um, so saying no, Hess, is really hard but important.
I think I kind of came to that conclusion as well because you know I would love to say yes to everything. That would be the best thing ever if I could, but unfortunately, we don't have that much. We have limited resources. So, with all these stuff that you're doing, do you have time to step back and take care of yourself alone and refresh and go back at it again? How do you do that?
Well, I think the most important thing for me is to be doing things that fill me up. So, of course, say building a media company, there's a lot of tasks that I don't really enjoy. I really dislike spreadsheets, and I dislike mundane tasks like individually emailing people, because HubSpot won't allow you to do certain things within campaigns. So you have to like still do it the old school way. So like there's some things that just really suck. But I make sure that the things that I'm doing, I'm really loving, and that they fill me up. And then I what I've and I'm like a bird. I don't know what the analogy is, but I love to travel and be elsewhere. So example, like this week I had some time off of my daughter. So first thing I did, book a flight to California. So I'm still busy, I'm still doing the work, but I'm doing it here in California. So now after this call, I'm going to go get vaccinated, and then going to go celebrate with a nice afternoon, watch the ocean, and and enjoy maybe a Mai Tai or two. I don't know. So that I'll get my recharge that way, and then back at the grind, because time zones, I'll be back at it in the evening.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you know, some people might get frustrated, especially the people that just got started with entrepreneurship, and since how difficult it is sometimes to maintain, they might give up. And what are your thoughts? What would you tell them before they give up their journey? How would you tell them to stay strong on their path? Your advice.
I think that's a good moment to recommend that everyone, really reach out to others and find a mentor, because mentors can help you identify what that looks like. If you don't have a goal, you're never going to get there, right? Uh, as much as my path and history and current life is still kind of meandering, I'm finding my own way. I do have people that have hard conversations, mentors of mine that make sure that the stuff that I'm doing, because now I have a daughter, so she's 18 months, and that has been a huge shift in me. So I've gone from exploring and trying, and we'll try this and we'll try that, and if it fails, I don't care. Like, it's just me, who cares? But now it's important that I build some sort of legacy for her, and so my goal has like fundamentally shift. So I'm actually building something to leave behind, and I think that's important. Mentors help you do that. Um, and and then surround yourself with team that aren't going to drag you down, but help lift you. And if you do have members on your team that aren't contributing to that goal or to each other's success, cut them out. Like, I'm sorry, but like narcissistic personalities that don't benefit the team but often just benefit
Da,
themselves, or
da,
it's
Pitel.
in some ways, sometimes these people, they can be really great performers on your team. And so a lot of folks will keep toxic personalities around because of the benefits. Like, oh man, this guy kills it for the sales, but man, like, no one loves working with him, and people quit all the time, but man, those sales, like that, like, what's the benefit there? So like, cut the cancer out as soon as you can.
Yeah, that's great.
And that'll
Because
help you get to that
you can
success.
actually you see the tangible let's say value that brings, but you don't know the hidden destruction that it has from behind. Okay, so talking about that, and let's say negativity from other people, there is always a voice in our head that has conversation with us and is like talking negatively and it brings fear, it brings doubts, and how do you overcome that voice sometimes?
um, I've grown so much with this in particular because of my last year with the telebehavioral healthcare company. So we grew 800% last year, and what that means is growing from like a staff of very few to now I have almost 35 therapists working with us full time. So that's a lot of people to ask these kinds of questions to, and so they've advised me that really. When one notices this behavior in themselves, recognize it, identify it, give it a name, understand where that what prompted that to happen, and then use some tool to compensate for that. And for me, what that is like I said, identifying it, understanding it, knowing it. I personally need to marinate in that kind of like self-loathing, and like this morning when I had my failure, I marinate in it for a little while, and then I have to lift myself back up. I've got to be my own coach. I got to be like, really, Corey, okay, like, yes, that happened, but this is who you are, this is who you want to be, this is the energy you're going to bring today, this is the outcome you're going to have this next, like this. I build these little milestones, like, so like, this is the next hour. If you need to reach out to somebody to to have some encouraging conversation, do it. And I think that's also very important. And it's also okay to call someone and say, like, Hess, hey man, do you have a minute? I need you to lift me up because I can't do it alone. I'm trying. I don't know if that answers your question.
It does. It actually does. It's you mentioned something really important, which I believe is the most important part of that is just to observe, like trace it back. Where does it come from? Why does it happen? What is it trying to tell you? Instead of just blaming it on something, trying to
Yeah.
see what it says and
Uh,
where it comes from.
no, no. when I had my daughter, one of the books I was reading has like an acronym, and it's like I think slow, like stop, listen, observe, um, and then I don't know what the W is, but the stop, listen, and observe is like really important.
All right. So
She's crying.
for the remaining time that we have, I'm going to get into the second section, which I called it Outer A Game. I wish we could talk more and explore more of the stuff that I've written here, but unfortunately, we need to cut it short. Um, so, with we've seen in 2020 and 2021, there's an increase in working remotely, right? And I'm sure that you are kind of involved in that, and some of your team members are working remotely as well. How did you adopt to this model?
I had some benefit because I've been what we call location independent for many years. I been a digital nomad is another one of those terms. There was a time in California when I was helping to scale a restaurant company, and I was standing inside the four walls, looking outside of the floor to ceiling windows and watching the world go by. And in that moment, I was like, "Why am I still doing this? Why am I trapped in this cage?" Um, and then I built more restaurants thinking that maybe if I just built more cages, I'd be happy. But I just went from cage to cage. So I've had a lot of, after that, I sold everything and I became location independent. I think this is where we go back to, leveraging technology. And, when you find something that works, I'm an early adopter for everything, but I try to find something that works and stick with it and master that one thing and try to keep my tools to a minimum. Uh, Building cultural on among remote teams is tough. Maintaining that culture, I think we're better at it this last year than ever. And there's tons of really great articles and writing out there. If anyone needs any kind of like links to such things on managing teams, building cultural remotely, that's like technology and the adoption. And this last year has been remarkable for that. So, and then it's also about bringing on the right kind of team and setting those expectations like very early and consistently and checking in with your team. You might have to check in more often with remote teams, but also in very different ways than you might if you're walking down the hall and grabbing coffee or water or being able to skip out for a lunch or something like that.
Yeah, that's true. Because working remotely and digitally has this advantage of not having the random interactions that you have in the office. And I also, when you mentioned about um, being stuck and in one location, I feel you as well. I'm exactly the same way. I can't really depend on a single location for the rest of my life. Even if that location brings me infinity of amount of
Yeah, it's not. This lifestyle isn't for everybody. Many
yeah.
people really enjoy place, and put a big emphasis on place, and that's a big part of also growing social capital and really understanding, who you need to know and who you need to meet and what industries and moves you need to make. If for me, I like making those connections everywhere because I want to be everywhere. But for those that don't, I have people on my team that will never leave their city because they just love it, and that's fine. What we do is work on building their network there, right?
Mhm. That's true. So, talking about the team, how do you keep your team inspired, and how do you motivate your team, and especially how do you do that digitally, since it's harder?
Well, yeah, it's more check-ins, and the check-ins have to be like there's there's three parts for me. It's okay. What are you working on? Like the tasks that we're working on. What do you think about? Is it moving towards our mission and our goal? Because I want them to help inform whether they feel it's like even helping out in that way, so we can pivot if we have to. And then the third thing is like, how are you doing? What do you need? How's your family? How are your friends? And through that, because so many people don't bring that stuff up and around in this virtual context, and you can't necessarily pick up those cues as you would in person. And so you seriously do have to just ask. And and that's of course setting expectations too very early on, that okay, these are things that I will be asking and you need to tell me because I cannot read minds, and I am the team is here to support. Like if you need time off to be with your family, if something's happening, if you need time off to go fill yourself up and recharge, totally cool. If we can be a part of that, awesome, even better. But people have to be empowered to advocate for themselves more than ever before.
Yeah, that's so true. And yeah, just checking in and seeing how everyone's doing, because not only that it's missing from work, is also missing from their lives as well, because they're staying home more often. So if they get that benefit um, from work, that inspired them and motivates them. So you talked a little bit before about using technology to keep your team organized. What kind of apps do you use? What do you use in your operation?
Calendly to manage my calendars, G Suite, Zoom, and Trello. And then if people are working with different things, Slack. And then if people are working with different things and technologies, I do my very best to try to pay attention. But if it's up to me, those are the tools that I love because then you can also really collaborate between organizations with all those tools. Um, those are my apps, nice
Right,
and simple. And my iPhone, live and die by that.
definitely. And any automations that you're using? Which part of your business did you automate?
Um, I uh, like HubSpot does some automation as far as like email drip campaigns and fun stuff like that. There's a bunch of other really great free like CRMs, but um, uh, I really do my best to delegate all that stuff. So my automation is old school. It's human capital with power through others.
Okay. So obviously you're running different projects, you're mentoring, you're advising, and all that. Are you facing any challenges? What's been the recent challenge in your professional life or personal?
Well, pre-pandemic, I was on a really great roll. I was advising a couple different companies, and I had a really strong income. And then pandemic happened, and I actually helped wind up a lot of those companies, and so my income basically evaporated. And so going back to the grind and hustling, a bunch of different things, and right now I am still building back up. So I landed a part-time gig a few months ago, and an earlier one a few months before that. So I'm still looking for work. That's my biggest challenge because I got to pay rent. So
Where are you gonna fit the work, Corey?
yeah,
You,
well, I
so
just
many.
um yeah, I mean, cash flow is a thing, and so but
Yeah,
the kind of work that I'm doing is a lot different now. So like right now, like it's much more higher level strategy, advisory, and I'm hopefully one of these firms that I'm helping out like will have a decent exit fairly soon, and then I'll get some breathing room. But it's been a big shift um from really doing like things that gobble up a lot of time to the more advisory stuff that is more about experience and direction and strategy.
make sure you go back to California for breeding, because
Exactly right.
that
Yeah.
sun looks that sun feels better to breathe. Right. So as I promised you to finish in 45 minutes, we've got 2 minutes. So I'm going to ask my last two questions and you can merge them if you want. So let's say someone in our audience is thinking about starting their dream work or project, whatever. What kind of advice do you give them? What do you tell them to do first, step one, in order to get started? And after that, if you have any other comments related to stuff that we talked about, feel free, please.
Sure. I um I always recommend people talk to as many other people that are doing that kind of work or similar work to see if like how that experience is. Do they like it? Like, what is it like day to day? Will I even like that? I don't know. Information interviews are incredible. Um, uh, by the time any of my interns are done, they've done at least 10 information interviews with people in the industry that they think they want to go into. And many of them are like, ooh, yeah, like, why do I, oof. And then the next thing is if you're building something, like really get to know your customer. Like, don't build that thing before you know if you can actually sell it. Um, like a lot of books get written first by just like doing pitches, and then they write the book. They don't write the book and then see if anyone wants to read it. So those are the two things, and that's just a lot of customer discovery and personal discovery. Does that answer your question?
Of course it does, and I'm on the same page with you right there. So, anything else, Corey, before you run away to get
Yeah.
back?
So I'm putting my LinkedIn in the chat. I know that we're supposed to be spending some more time together. If anyone wants to meet, there's my LinkedIn. Send me a message, and I'll be happy to spend some time with anybody here, or anyone in your network that might want any help at all, free of charge, just to have a conversation and build network. So please take me up on that offer. I love meeting people, and I love seeing like how we can, rising tide lifts all boats types thing.